on 44 shit, you know what I mean? Busy man, busy man. Look, when that shit drop, you step all the way on their neck, step on their neck and their head with that shit.
Fine then, I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel, he nice but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. They mad, I'm too solid, circle tight, yeah, back to you. No, they want my life, I ain't worried, I got rank for real. I got real soldiers, kill for me, nigga, watch yourself. They say you been in beast mode lately, you is not yourself. When you dropping that fire, precious marriage, they inquiring. They can't stop what's coming, but I see them conspiring. Cross the line, them firing. This bitch here, finna break the spin. No kindness, I don't trust you, circle small. You can keep your features. Me and my niggas don't keep no secrets. In the field like Jeepers Creepers, say they want some smoke, dawg. So I brought these chimney sweeps. Coming like we coming, you can't even cap. These niggas don't run it like we run it, bitch, don't even start. Bitch, I'm with my niggas till the end, till death do us part. So if you wanna leave, you can leave, bitch, bless your heart. Fine then, I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel, he nice but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. Ooh, I got a man, circle tight, yeah, back and seal. I heard they want my life, I ain't worried, I got rate for real. Take over in effect, yeah, I'm fully focused. You might not see it on me, just know it's women, that bitch fully loaded. Ooh, yeah, we up and rolling. Told them I need major motion. Think I'm joking, I'ma school them niggas like they baby Jody. Got it out the dust, now I'm too clean, don't know why they hate me. What you want out life, dawg? Guns and butter, baby boy. UPK top, dawg. Certified road runner. I'ma turn that econ line van to a damn tank. I got chopper stash in that attic like they Anne Frank. They had that shit on lock till I snapped on them like bolt cutters. You cannot play both sides, gotta choose your color. See him throwing that one up with that W, that's my blood, bro. Fine then, I ain't show no mercy, I'm gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the dust, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel, he nice but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. Ooh, I got a made, circle tight, yeah, back and seal. Said they want my life, I ain't worried, I got rank for real.
Hey, it's
to all. All right. Slocky, we didn't start a little bit late. Had a little minor technical difficulties. But we are back. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into it. This is the Tuesday Brotherhood class. All right, let's give it up. All right, and today what we're going to talk about is mercy and forgiveness. Okay. What we're doing right now is we are, building our nation and putting our nation back together. Because of slavery, Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, our relationships have strained, so-called Mexicans don't get along with Blacks. Right. Blacks don't get along with so-called Mexicans. Blacks and Mexicans don't get along with so-called, Puerto Ricans. And right now, as a people, we're divided. All right. And the Lord is waking us up, to come back to our nationality. And Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans are of one nation. We are one people that comprise of 12 tribes. And again, because of slavery, You know, we've been separated from each other for so long. And that's why the Lord has given us this truth back. So, because he's given us this truth back, our job is to unite the nations once again,
Right.
to bring Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans back, back to again to their culture. Again, for so long, you know, we hated one another. We've hated ourselves. Here in America, you know, Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, we have been taught, you know, to hate ourselves. We've been taught to hate one another.
Right.
Because of the oppression here in America, we see the hate, you know, that is shown to Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. And because of that hate, or because of wanting to envy our oppressor, because of wanting to be like our oppressor, we started to hate ourselves. We started to hate one another. And that's where you get your black on black crime from,
Right.
your brown on brown crime from. A Black, Hispanic, and Native American will commit a crime on each other faster than we will, you know, someone from another nation. You know, all the gang banging, all the murdering, all the drug dealing, that's not something as a whole that we're doing to other nations.
Right.
But that is something that we're doing to ourselves. We're killing ourselves, you know, selling drugs to ourselves, destroying ourselves. You know, we'll go rob another Black man before we go rob anybody.
Right.
We'll go kill another Black man before we, you know, go kill anybody. You know, another Hispanic man, another Native American man. We'll destroy, because we've been destroyed. We look and we turn and we destroy, you know, one another. We're quick to destroy and someone who looks like us, someone that comes from the same neighborhood as us, somebody that we grew up with. We'll go harm them before we go commit a crime against, you know, anyone else. And as Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, again, it's time for us to come back together. It's time for us to show love to one another. It's time for us to forgive one another. It's time for us to have mercy on one another. All right? Because the thing about it is, let me see. Let me get Colossians 3:13. You know, the thing about it is, you know, we have to, you know, love and forgive one another, especially if we're out here saying that we're trying to, you know, be righteous and live a righteous life. Especially, you know, for us, you know, who are in the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because how can we, you know, turn around and ask, you know, the Most High to forgive us for our sins and our transgressions, but we won't turn around and forgive another Black, Hispanic, and Native American?
Right.
How can we have, you know, that hate in our heart for our brothers, and we turn around and ask the Lord, you know, to love and to forgive us? You got that up?
Come.
Read that for me, Marcus.
This book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 13. Forbearing one another and forgiving one another.
Forbearing one another and forgiving one another. Read.
If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye.
Listen, man, if we have a quarrel with one another, if we have a disagreement with one another, then we have to forgive one another.
That's right.
Because just as Christ forgave us, we have to turn around and show that same love, that same compassion for our brothers.
Right.
Because again, we can't sit up here and say we love the Most High and continue to ask the Lord for mercy and forgiveness, but we're not willing to show it to our own people.
That's right.
All right. Pull up that article I gave you real quick. I just want to kind of just touch on, you know, like why we hate ourselves, you know, here in America, you know, because there's a reason for everything. You know, we just didn't, you know, wake up one morning and said, you know, we want to start murdering each other. Right. And we want to start harming one another. we want to start destroying one another. All right, you got that out?
Come.
Hold on 1 second. Tell me where it's coming from first off.
It's coming from diverse issue in higher education.
All right, and I want you to drop down to like the third or fourth paragraph where it says we can see and test. Let's see, 1, 2. You see it? All right, read that for me, buddy. Sure.
We can see it in the tests that are given to young black children, and pictures are shown to them where far too many see white dolls as prettier.
So what this article is starting to bring out is there have been tests, done on, black children. All right. And when these tests are given to black children, what they're saying is what they're showing pictures of black dolls and white dolls. Okay. And what they're saying is that it's shown to them where far too many see white dolls as prettier. Okay. So what they're bringing out is they're describing, the self-hatred, that we have for ourselves. When we see black, we think of bad, dirty, but when we see, white, we think of it as good, as being pretty. Right. Well, this is how one of the ways that we've been destroyed, here in America. This is one of the reasons why, that we hate one another, that we hate ourselves, is because growing up in this society in America, this is what we've been taught. And we've been taught by, what we've seen, here in America, all the slavery, all the lynchings, all the killings, all the horror, the horrific things that have been done to Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans by the so-called white man. Right. Read.
We see self-hatred manifest itself when several black pro football players consider a perverse, cruel, loudmouth, misfit, white linebacker with a history of disciplinary problems. More representative of blackness than a young,
sophisticated
culture, well-educated, reverse black man.
So what they're saying is they're also seeing, hatred manifests itself when several pro football players, they consider a perverse and loudmouth, white linebacker, okay? They prefer him, versus preferring a young black, sophisticated, cultured, well-educated, reserved black man. Okay, they think that loudmouth linebacker, that he's cool. That's what it's supposed to be like. We're going to admire him. We're going to reverence him. They reverence that loudmouth white linebacker over a sophisticated, young, reserved black man. Right. Why? Because we've been taught to hate ourselves here in America. That self-hatred has manifested here in America.
Right.
Read.
We see it on YouTube videos, Twitter.
Now, I want to point out, about those YouTube videos. And I'm going to show you, how, that narrative of self-hatred and hatred against Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans is pushed. Because, they have, they have guidelines on YouTube, okay? They have things that you can show and things that you can't show, all right? And what you see on YouTube is you'll see them playing videos of Black Hispanics talk about killing each other. You'll see, those videos of Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. What's the word I'm looking? you'll see, those videos of us, talking about drug dealing, talking about destroying our own people, talking about all these wicked things. You'll see that on YouTube. But then if you type a comment about something like that, well, now you're going against their policies. Right. You can't share things like that. You say anything that's outside of their guidelines, and now your YouTube channel is taken down. Right. Now you're put on a suspension. But you can talk about killing Black people. You can talk about selling drugs to one another. You can talk about those things, and it's okay. Well, that's why the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge is so important. Right. Because we are getting away from, we're killing that self-hatred. We're killing that hatred for one another. And the message that we're putting out there is to love one another, have mercy towards one another, have compassion towards one another. Because us building this nation from the ground up, that's what it's going to take. The scriptures say, can two walk together lest they be agreed? There's no building up this nation until Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans get on one accord. Right. And through all the actions that we have done towards one another for 500 years, and this hatred that we created for ourselves, this hatred that we've created towards one another, that has to change. And that starts right here in the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. That's right. And we're teaching Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans to come back together, to forgive one another, to show compassion, to show love to one another, because that's the only way this thing is going to get built. That's the only way this nation is going to come back together. Let me get Ephesians 4 and 32. Because even, today, we want to scream, Black Lives Matter. And anytime someone outside of our race, does something to harm us, we want to go and we want to scream, Black Lives Matter. But we're not in an uproar when little Mikey, go shoot down, little Tim. But what do we do now? Now it's no snitching. Right. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like, keep your mouth closed, don't say nothing. But if a so-called white man, kills one of us, now all of a sudden Black Lives Matter. Well, Black lives have to matter when little Tim gets shot by Tyrone, right. And Black lives have to matter when someone from another nation, kills us. Right. We have to be in an uproar anytime one of us dies. That's right. Anytime one of us is killed, anytime one of us is harmed, we have to be in an uproar. We can't, complain about other nations killing us. So I want to make sure I'm understood. We definitely can complain about other nations killing us, but we also have to have that same energy when one of our own kills one of our own. Right. All right. You got that up?
Don't come.
Read that for me.
This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 32. And be ye kind.
And be ye what?
And be ye kind.
Be ye evil.
Be ye kind.
Read.
One to another.
Be ye kind one to another. Right. I mean, you always want to treat people how you want to be treated. Right. You know what I'm saying? And the scripture says, be ye kind to one another, because right now, Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, we're not being kind to one another. Right. We want to talk about all this love that we have for one another. We want to talk about, how loyal we are to one another. Well, that same brother that tells you he loves you is the same brother, like if he needs to come up and he know you got it, that's that same brother that's going to shoot you in the back, and that same brother that's going to have, be crying for you at your funeral. He's going to show up to the funeral and he's going to act like he has, like he's been hurt about what's been done. The scriptures say, be ye kind to one another, read.
Tenderhearted.
And tenderhearted. We got to be tenderhearted towards one another. Like, we really have to care about one another. We really have to, set our personal things aside and really show love and compassion to one another. Because the way that we are being treated here in America, listen, we all we got. No other nation is going to give a damn about us. So we have to give a damn about each other. And after 500 years, we've loved every nation. We love the so-called white man. We love the so-called Arab. I mean, look at how look. Half of our people, Black Hispanics, are in a religion called Islam. Islam is an Arab religion. But because we envy our oppressor so much, now we want to show that love to our oppressor. We want to go and serve his God. We want to show him, that we love him so much. We turn from our God and we go try to serve his God. We have to really care for one another and really put our selfishness to the side. Like, we really have to show an act of selflessness and not selfishness if we're going to put this thing back together and make it work. Read.
Forgiving one another.
Got to forgive one another. We can't be holding these grudges. I mean, we'll hold a grudge for 10 years because somebody has wronged us. We won't talk to a person for 20 years because we feel like a person has wronged us. But as soon as somebody outside of our nation does something, what's the first thing we say? Oh, we got to forgive them. We got to find it in our heart to forgive them. The only way that we can move on is if we forgive them. Well, listen, the only way we can move on from this oppression that we've been in, the only way that we can get over the things that we're going through today is to learn to forgive one another. Is to learn to put that hatred to the side for one another. Because as long as we hold on to that hatred, there is no change in this narrative that goes on between Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. This will continue to go on. We have to break that cycle of self-hatred. We have to break that cycle of hating one another. Now is the time for Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans to change the narrative. Now is the time for Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans to have compassion towards one another, to show mercy towards one another. Let me see. Hit that Colossians, read that one. And the thing about it is, being in this truth, how can we not show compassion and mercy, towards one another? And in the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge, we learn to show mercy and compassion for all Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans. Why? Because look at the mercy and the compassion that the Lord has showed us. I mean, we wouldn't even exist as a nation if the Most High didn't have mercy and compassion for us. I mean, us being here today is an example of the mercy that the Most High has shown towards the children of Israel. I mean, we've done every wicked thing, in the book that you can think of. We went out serving other gods. We went out, wanting to be like our oppressor, wanting to do what they do. But yet, the Lord had mercy and still chose Israel. Matter of fact, let me get that. Is that Isaiah 45 and 15? I will yet have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel. Let me see. Is that it? Isaiah 14 and 1. Let me get Isaiah 14 and 1. We can't expect, the Most High to show us mercy and compassion, and we're not willing to do that for one another. I mean, Christ is our example on how to live. The greatest black man to ever walk the face of the earth is our example on how to live. And just like that example where Christ had mercy on that woman at the well, where the Pharisees, brought that woman, to Christ, talking about we found her, committing adultery. And Christ said, well, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Christ had mercy on her. Because by law, she was supposed to be put to death. But Christ told them, well, okay, well, whoever is without sin, let them cast the first stone. They looked at each other and got up out of there. And that's how we have to look at one another. Like, yeah, I mean, like us as a nation, we're not perfect. Us as a nation of people, it would be asinine to think that we would never have any disagreements. It would be asinine to think that we would never have any quarrels with one another. Like that's life. But now how we handle those issues, how we handle those situations is going to determine what we're trying to be towards one another.
Right.
Are we going to have compassion? Are we going to have mercy? Because look at the condition that we're in right now today. The condition that we're in as Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans is because we haven't had compassion for one another. Because we haven't been able to show each other mercy. Because we haven't been able to forgive one another. Again, we've tried everything under the sun. Let's try loving one another.
Right.
Let's try doing what these scriptures say. Let's try doing what our records advise us to do. Let's do that. You got that out?
Go.
Read that.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob.
For the Lord will have what?
Mercy on Jacob.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob. Read.
And will yet choose Israel.
And will yet choose Israel through all of our wickedness, through all of our sinning, through all of our transgression, through all of our whoring with other nations and other gods. Start from the beginning. He said what?
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob.
Even though we've done all of that, the Lord said he would have mercy on Jacob. Read.
And will yet choose Israel.
And will yet choose Israel.
That's right.
Read.
And set them in their own land.
And set them in their own land. Read.
And the strangers shall be joined with them.
And the strangers shall be joined with them. The strangers are these other nations. The Lord is having so much mercy on us.
Right.
He said, I'm going to put y'all in your own land. Even though y'all have transgressed against me, I'm going to put you in your own land. And he said the strangers will be joined with us. So yeah, there are going to be other nations in heaven.
Right.
There are going to be other nations in the kingdom of heaven. Read.
And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
And they're going to cleave to the house of Jacob. Read.
Verse 2. And the people shall take them.
And the Israelites are going to take these strangers that are in their land. Read.
And bring them to their place.
And they're going to bring them to their place. They're going to bring them, within those 12 gates. Okay. Read.
In the house of Israel.
And the house of Israel, read,
shall possess them in the land of the Lord.
Shall possess them in the land of the Lord. What does a possess? What does possess mean? Possess means to own. We're going to own you're going to own these strangers that are going to be in the kingdom of heaven with us. But we got to get the kingdom of heaven first.
Right.
That same mercy that the Most High showed the children of Israel, that same mercy that's going to put them in their own land, that same mercy that's going to have them ruling over other people, well, we have to have that same spirit.
Right.
And we have to show mercy to one another. We have to be willing to put aside our differences and love one another. Matter of fact, let me get John 15 and 13. Because without us showing, right now, we willing to kill a brother for stepping on our shoe in the club. Right now, we're willing to kill another brother for looking at us wrong.
Right.
That's the state that we're in as Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans today. That's the state that we're in. And we have to transform. We have to have a renewing of the mind.
Right.
We have to be to the point where if a brother offends us, all right, that we're going to have to show that brother some love and compassion. A brother steps on your shoe, instead of, wanting to kill that brother, buy that brother a drink.
Right.
Buy that brother a meal. If a brother wrongs you, show some mercy to that brother. Show some love to that brother. Ask that brother, is this something that you can do for him?
Right.
You got that out?
Go good.
Read that for me, Baba Kashaw.
It's the book of John, chapter 15, verse 13. Greater love have no man than this.
Greater love hath no man than this. The scripture is about to tell you that there's no greater love than this right here. Read.
That a man lay down his life for his friend.
That a man will kill his friend.
Lay down his life for his friend.
That a man will steal from his friend.
Lay down his life for his friend.
There's no greater love than a man who is willing to lay down his life for a friend.
That's right.
That's the spirit that the nation of Israel has to be in.
Right.
That's the spirit that's going to get us from hell to the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
Willing to lay down our life for our brother. Not willing to try to impress our oppressors.
Right.
Not willing to turn our back on our brother to get ahead. Not willing to finesse our brother to get ahead. But that spirit of willing to lay down our life for our brother. Willing to give our brother our last so that brother can be straight. So that brother and his family can be good. And it would be a perpetual thing amongst the nation of Israel if one brother's helping out another brother. So now when you need that help, well, you ain't got it's automatically going to, that another brother automatically got you. You ain't even got to ask for it. Give me that scripture, or Salaki, finish that one out. Is there some more on that? Give me, find me that precept if a brother fall in decay with thee. You know what I'm saying? If a brother fall in decay with thee. Because what we have to understand is This is real life. We're gonna go through things with one another. We're gonna go through, disagreements with one another. We're going to offend one another. But we have to handle how we deal with one another very differently than we've been taught to by our oppressor. We have to be willing to lay down our life. We have to be willing to give up everything for our brother. And that goes back to treat someone how you would want to be treated. If everybody in the nation of Israel has that same love for one another, listen, we will become a nation that couldn't fail at anything. We will become a nation who could not be up under another nation ever.
Right.
You got that out? Read that for me, Baba Kishore.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 35. And if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him.
Listen, if your brother don't have nothing, and your brother falls in decay with you, your brother falls into debt with you, read.
Then thou shalt relieve him.
And you should relieve that brother. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I see what situation that you're in right now. You know what I'm saying? And I know, you know what I'm saying, that you're in a position right now to where, you owe me right now. You know what? Don't even worry about that. Whatever you got, you take that stuff and you get yourself together. You make sure you get yourself straight.
Right.
That's the spirit that we need to have with one another.
Right.
Instead of, trying to, suck our brothers dry. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to, to kick our brother when they down. You know what I'm saying? Like we need to we need to have that compassion.
Right.
We need to, have that sense of, wanting to relieve a brother if we know that he needs it. That's why I love the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge so much.
That's right.
Because we live these scriptures.
Right.
We don't just talk them, like we live these scriptures. You know how many times I've seen a brother that needed some help and the brother would give him the shirt off his back. The brother will, hey, take this money, go get you some food. Hey, what else do you need? Because here in the School of Universal and Practical Knowledge, it is an honor, you know what I'm saying, to want to lay our life down for our brother.
That's right.
It is an honor to want to make sure that my brother is straight. It is an honor to be able to help one of my brothers. And listen, this whole world was meant for the nation of Israel to rule. This whole world was meant for us to have dominion over it. And it's still meant, and that is still meant. The nation of Israel is going to rule the world.
Right.
The nation of Israel is going to be in a position of rulership. The scriptures say it. And that's what we're trying to get back to. But in order for us to get back to that state, in order for us to get back in that position, we have an enormous task ahead of us. And the foundation of, getting back to where we need to be is to love one another. To be able to forgive one another. Let me get Matthew 18 and 15. Because again, right now, today, if we have a problem with someone, first thing we want to do is fight and shoot. We don't know how to communicate effectively with one another. And because we don't know how to communicate effectively with one another, then our go-to is to resort to violence. But what we have to understand is we have to learn to communicate with one another.
Right.
We have to learn to be able to talk about what it is that offended each other. Because so many people have been killed, so many people have been harmed, so many people have been wronged over a misunderstanding. Because there wasn't a line of communication to talk about what was going on,
Right.
the issue that was at hand. Because most disagreements, most offenses can be handled through a conversation. But all we have to do is be willing to come to the table with one another. As Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, we've been taught to bottle our feelings up. So, you know what I'm saying? We've been taught to, keep everything in. And when we do that, when we bottle our feelings up, when we choose to keep our emotions in, well, then I wasn't able to talk to that brother. I know how I'm feeling. And that brother probably feeling a certain way. But because we don't come and talk to one another, well, now that offense is starting to build up. Now that brother does something else. Now you ready to go. You ready to push that go button. Read that for me out.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee.
So if your brother shall trespass against you, if your brother shall offend you, read.
Go and tell him his fault.
Go and tell him his fault. You go to that brother and you let him know the trespass that he committed against you.
Right.
You go to that brother and you tell him that you were offended. Read.
Between thee and him alone.
But you don't go to this brother over here and say, man, you know what? You know what I'm saying? This brother over here, man, he did this to me, you know what I'm saying? And man, I ain't feeling that, you don't go to him. He's not the one that offended you. And then have some learn not to be a coward.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Learn not to be a coward and go tell everybody else how you feeling about a brother. Learn, you know what I'm saying, to go to that brother. Learn to, you know what I'm saying, be brave and go to that brother. Approach that brother and say, listen, brother, can I talk to you for a minute? You don't go gossiping, you know what I'm saying, all throughout, whatever group you in or whatever. You don't do that. Because now everybody knows your business.
Right.
But now if you go to that brother, well, now the only one that knows what's going on is you and that brother. Read.
If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother.
Now, if you go to that brother and you tell that brother the trespass that he committed against you, you go tell that brother what he did to offend you, and that brother heard you, you know what? I apologize. Salakia. If that brother heard you, it says you what?
Thou hast gained thy brother.
Now you've gained your brother. But now, if you want to be messy and go to this person and talk about the situation, what happened, go to this person and go to that person, well, now you just being messy about the situation.
Right.
So now that brother offended you. So now in turn, you go around telling all the business and stirring up this stuff. Well, now you might have offended that brother. Because Sometimes a brother might not even know he offended you.
Right.
It's a lot of times where you offended and you've been transgressed against, and it wasn't done intentionally. So now if you go to that brother and you go to that brother alone and you tell him his transgressions, and if that brother has heard you, now you've gained a brother.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do in the nation of Israel. We're trying to gain brothers.
Right.
Because we've been separated for so long. We've been pinned against each other for so long. Now what we're trying to do is gain brothers. Bring brothers together. Put brothers on one accord. Finish that out.
Verse 16.
Bob Kershaw.
Verse 16. But if he would not hear thee.
But if your brother does not hear you, okay? Hey, brother, you offended me. Hey, well, I don't think I offended you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, hey, it is what it is, you know? Read.
Then take with thee one or two more.
So now, if that brother has offended you and he doesn't feel like he offended you, or he doesn't say he's sorry and he doesn't apologize, well, go get you how many?
One or two more.
Go get you one or two witnesses. Read.
That in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses.
Because in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, if 2 or 3 witnesses corroborate what you're saying, read.
Every word may be established.
Every word that you said will be established as the truth.
Right.
Why? Because you have 2 or 3 witnesses. So now if you tell that brother he offended you and he doesn't think that he offended you, right, and now you got 2 or 3 witnesses that corroborated what you were saying, what does it say?
Every word may be established.
Every word may be established. Read.
Verse 17. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church.
And now, if he neglects that, well, now you take it to a council.
Right.
You take it to be judged. You take that matter to be judged. I mean, it's just like in the court of law, right? What do they call it? Small claims court or something. If you have a disagreement and y'all can't come to an agreement, now you take it to the court, and the judge, after he hears both sides, after the judge hears witnesses, then that judge makes a judgment.
Right.
So now you get your witnesses, and the situation cannot be established. The situation can't be reconciled or rectified. Well, now you take it higher up. Now you take it to a council and you have that matter judged. Okay? Read.
But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican.
And listen, once that judgment is passed down, if he don't want to hear that judgment, if he don't want to adhere to that judgment, it says treat him like what?
As a heathen man.
You treat him as a heathen man. All right? Because you went through the steps. You went through the proper channels to rectify the situation.
Right.
All right? And as a nation, that is how we are supposed to handle one another.
That's right.
That is how we are supposed to deal with one another. Go to one another. Communicate effectively with one another. Have some compassion. Have some understanding, some mercy towards one another. And then if you can't get it ironed out that way, well, now you go to the men above you. Because in the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge, we have a ranking system.
Right.
We have rank and order in this school. Just like America has their court system, their court of law, right, to work out any differences, to work out crimes that are committed against each other, to work out transgressions that are committed against each other. Well, that's what we have in this Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, because being together and being one as a nation is the most important thing.
Right.
Having love for one another is the most important thing. It takes more energy to hate someone and to be evil towards someone than it does to forgive them,
Right.
and that it does to love them. You know, as Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, you know, we have a complex of wanting to be the biggest, the baddest, and the toughest. Well, listen, the Most High is the biggest and baddest and the toughest.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the Lord can choose, you know, whatever judgment he wants. You know what I'm saying, when it comes to dealing with us. But like we read earlier, you know what I'm saying, the Lord also has compassion and mercy against the children of Israel. And, you know, we have to walk, you know what I'm saying, and live our life after the Most High.
Right.
And if the Lord can have compassion, you know, for the children of Israel, we damn sure can have compassion for one another.
That's right.
We damn sure can have forgiveness for one another. Let me get Proverbs 17:7. Is that what I want? Yeah, we'll start. Yeah, we'll start at 7. Read 7 for me, Bob Cushon. I might have to start at read 7. Proverbs 17:7.
Excellent speech, become not a fool.
Go jump down to 9.
He that covered a transgression seeketh love.
He that covereth the transgression seeketh love. So what that's saying is, if you know of a situation between, you know, a brother, you're not going out and telling everybody. You're not going out trying to stir up, you know, strife between, you know, brothers. You're not going and trying to, you know, keep talking about things and stirring up problems between brothers. It says, he that covers a transgression seeketh love. Because, you know what I'm saying, you are, you know, wanting the brothers to love one another. Because you want the brothers to be on one accord. Because you want the brothers to get along. You're not going out there and putting the situation out in front of everybody, read.
But he that repeated a matter separate very friends.
But he that repeateth the matter, well, now you're trying to separate friends.
Right.
Because those brothers are supposed to go to each other and work it out amongst themselves.
Right.
But now, if you have a knowledge of what's going on, and now you're out here running, you keep bringing up the situation, well, now you're trying to cause division between brothers.
Right.
And that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to do what Zephaniah 2:1 say. We're trying to gather ourselves together.
That's right.
We're not trying to separate brothers. We're not trying to separate one another. Read.
Verse 10. A reproof enter more into a wise man than in 100 stripes into a fool.
You can drop that out.
You want 17?
Hmm?
You want 17? Proverbs 17:17.
No, what did it say?
A friend love it. A friend love it at all times. And their brother.
Sound about right to me. Let's get it up.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 17. A friend loveth at all times.
A friend loveth at all times. You're going to love that brother if he offends you.
Right.
You're going to love that brother if he transgress against you.
Right.
Read.
And a brother is born for adversity.
And a brother is born for adversity. Like, how do you... So, okay. when you have, friends, right? How do you know that they're your friend? How do you know that they genuinely love you? How do you know that they genuinely want good for you? How do you know? You know because of adversity that you go through with a brother.
Right.
If you done been through thick and thin with a brother, well, then you know that brother's true motives. You know that brother is genuine.
Right.
You know that brother has love for you. Because adversity builds a brother.
Right.
When you go through things with a person and you learn that they're solid, and you learn that they're 100, ain't that how you become closer? Mm-hmm. Ain't that how, you become thick as thieves?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Ain't that how you become, brothers? Adversity, going through things with one another. Anybody could tell you that they love you. Anybody could say it. Anybody could say that they care for you. But this is an action word.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to show actions. And no better way, you know what I'm saying, than to have a relationship of a brother born than to go through things. And when you go through things and you go through that adversity, well, sometimes you just might have to forgive your brother. Right. Sometimes your brother might, through that adversity, sometimes your brother might offend you. Sometimes your brother might piss you the hell off. And that's okay. It's normal. Right. That's normal. But in turn, when that happens, you're going to have to find love in your heart, compassion in your heart, mercy in your heart. Because that's the way you're going to keep the relationship going. That's the way that you're going to make that bond stronger. And listen, forgiveness is mandatory. All right, but at the same time, we're not fools. Right. Okay? Forgiving someone doesn't mean that you forget. And let me explain what I mean. If you have a brother that, comes to your house and he's been caught stealing in your house several times, well, you'll forgive that brother, but you just might not invite him back in your house. You understand? You might have a brother or a sister that has a lying spirit on them. You forgive that brother, you forgive that sister. All right? You might not forget. You understand that, that they have that spirit, but you have to forgive that brother, forgive that sister. All right? And again, you'll forgive them, and it might take some, some time, to build that trust back up. It might take some time, for you to be able to, believe what they say again. But you have to find it in your heart to forgive that brother, forgive that sister. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the only way that this nation is going to be built. Right. Because our oppressor, if they had their way, they would still be continuing. They would still want us, killing each other, destroying one another. These other nations don't want the nation of Israel to come together as a people. Right. There's nothing more than America fears than Black, Hispanic, and Native coming together and being one force, being one people. Because now if you got Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans that come together, then what does the so-called white man become? He becomes the minority. Right? And that's what was coming out, with that shooting up there in Buffalo, the replacement theory. They are fearing, that Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans are going to start to replace them. Well, Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans are going to start replacing them when we start coming together as a nation, when we start coming together as a people. And we have to reconcile with one another. We have to start reconciling our differences with one another. We're going to have to start becoming one people again. Right. Crips are going to have to say to hell with being Crips. Bloods are going to have to say to hell with being Bloods. And we're going to have to say, we're Israelites. Right. That's who we are. We're God's chosen people. And we have to start reverencing each other more than a color, more than a street. We have to start loving each other more than money. We have to start loving and coming together with each other and putting each other first, and realize that the greatest resource on the planet Earth that an Israelite can have is another Israelite. Right. And treating each other as such. Let me get the definition of reconcile out. And this is so important, like what we have to do as Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans is reconcile. Because right now we're divided. Right now our enemy is winning. Our enemy is winning at having us destroy ourselves. Our enemy don't even have to, work as hard, anymore to destroy us, because they've laid the groundwork. They've laid the foundation. They put the system in motion, and now it's on autopilot for Blacks destroying Blacks. It's on autopilot that we are killing one another, that we're destroying one another, that we're separating ourselves from one another. We're on autopilot. But what we have to do is, what they call them, break those generational curses. Right. We as Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, we have to break those generational curses. Right. These curses that have been upon us for generations, this curse of hating one another, it's time to break that. And the way that we start breaking that is with reconciliation. Let me get that definition of reconcile.
The definition of reconcile. Restore friendly relations between.
Restore what?
Friendly relations between.
We got to restore those friendly relations between one another. Right. Because at one point in time, we were together. The nation of Israel was together. The northern kingdom was in captivity in Assyria, was let out of that captivity in Syria. And what did they say? Hey, let us gather ourselves together and let us go into a land where no man dwelt, so we can keep our laws, so we can keep our customs. They were together then. All right. The northern kingdom, Salakia, the southern kingdom at one time were together. Benjamin, Judah, and Levi, so-called Blacks, so-called Jamaicans, so-called Haitians. We were together. But 500 years of slavery, 500 years of oppression has put us in a condition where we're separated. Right. Has us in a condition to where we don't want to reconcile. Has us in a condition to where we want to go and join every other nation, even though they want nothing to do with us. But we want to try to force ourselves inside their circles. When we can create our own circle and separate from the people who don't want us with them.
Right.
Separate from the people who choose to harm us. We can just go do our own thing. But because we lack faith in the Most High, we don't think that our nation can be put back together. We don't think that black people can come together. I mean, I was just listening to this dude, Charleston White, the other day. He said, I don't want to be around, black people. I don't want to be around niggas. He's like, I want to be around these other. He's like, because we out here, killing ourselves and harming ourselves. I understand what he was saying. But instead of us throwing up our hands and saying to hell with each other, right. Well, let's gather with one another.
Right.
Let's fix one another. Let's reconcile with one another. What was that definition of?
Good. Restore friendly relations.
Let's restore our friendly relations, read.
Right. Between.
Let's restore our friendly relations between one another. Let blacks start reconciling with blacks. Let Crips start reconciling with Bloods. Let's start reconciling with our family members, our own people that we have issues with. Right. Let's start to restore the friendly relations between one another. I don't know about you, but I want rulership.
Right.
I don't want to have to sit here and beg my oppressor for food.
Right.
I don't want to have to sit here and beg my oppressor when I'm thirsty.
Right.
I don't want to sit here and beg my oppressor when I need shelter and clothing. I don't want to have to go to my enemy for those things. I want rulership. I want to be on high. I want what the Most High promised the children of Israel. And it's only a one-way path to that. It's only a one-way path. It's only one road. It's only one entrance to get there.
Right.
And that's by Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans loving each other, loving Christ, loving the Most High.
That's right.
It's only one path. There's not different ways that you can get there. And so, again, we have to be willing to, sacrifice, the things in this kingdom. We have to be willing to give up a little to get a lot. Because right now, Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans in America, we have a little. We're on the bottom of society. And we have to be willing to give up the little trinkets and the little gifts that destroy our heart.
Right.
We got to be willing to give those things up. And when we can give those things up, and when we can turn away from all this wickedness, and when we can, stop following the white man's plan of killing one another, harming one another, trying to destroy one another, divide one another. Once we can do that, then we're on the right path.
Right.
Our so-called oppressor, he knows to divide and conquer.
Right.
And what did he do? He divided the 12 tribes of Israel so he can conquer the 12 tribes of Israel. And he did a hell of a job dividing and conquering. A hell of a job. Blacks want to kill blacks. Mexicans want to kill blacks. Blacks want to kill Mexicans. Puerto Ricans want to kill Mexicans. Blacks want to kill Puerto Ricans. Haitians want to kill Jamaicans. Jamaicans want to kill Cubans. We listen. We want to harm one another because that seed has been planted.
Right.
That system was put in place for us to hate one another. And that's what we got to get up out of, and we got to break away from that. Let me see. Let me get Micah 7 and 18. Yeah, let me get that. What I'm about to say, man. Micah, Micah 7 and 18.
This is the book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 18. Who is a God like unto thee, that pardon iniquity, and pass by the transgression of the remnants of his heritage?
That's what the Most High does. The Most High forgives us of our sins. The Most High forgives us of our our transgressions. And we have to be willing to do that for one another. Again, how can a man say he loved God, who he hasn't even seen, and then turn around and hate his brother? How can we say that we love the Most High? We haven't even seen him. But our brother that's right in our face, how can we hate him and say that we love God?
Right.
And who the hell are we to ask God to forgive us for our sins, to forgive us for our transgressions, and we can't do the same for our brother? Read.
He retained not his anger forever, because he delighted in mercy.
The Lord doesn't hold on to anger forever, because the Lord delighteth in mercy. The Lord would rather show mercy than to punish.
Right.
And we have to have that same spirit. We have to be the same way. We can't be holding on to no anger forever. We can't be angry at a brother for 5, 10, 15 years.
Right.
We can't hold on to, because listen, you holding on to that anger, what does that do for you? You holding on to that anger don't do nothing but make you bitter.
Right.
You holding on to that anger don't help you, and it don't help that brother.
Right.
Because you holding on to that anger is going to do what? It's going to begin to rot. It's going to begin to seep, deep in your bones. And now that situation with this brother is going to cause you to turn around and start having anger for others because of what another brother did.
Right.
Because instead of you talking it out, and instead of you going to that brother and y'all having an open line of communication and discussing, y'all's transgressions against one another, instead of y'all being able to talk about, how y'all offended one another, you let that rot in your bones. And then that turns and creates more anger, and turns around and creates more bitterness. Don't let that anger, don't hold on to that anger. Let that anger go. Have more delight in showing compassion. Have more delight in showing mercy. Let's see. Oh, yeah, with it. Let me get Let me get Give me 2 Corinthians 30:9. Again, we can't be saying that, that we're following, the most high, we're following after Christ, we're in the truth if we're not in the same spirit as Christ, in the same spirit as the most high. Like we can't be saying that. And the scripture says it's a time for everything. All right. It's a time and a season for everything. All right. And if we're going to be in the same, like I said, the same spirit, if we're going to, say that we're following, after Christ, well, then we have to do the things that Christ did or that Christ would do. Okay. We can't be like the Christian church, and we can't be hypocrites and say one thing and do another. Okay. Like we got to walk it like we talk it. All right. And when it comes to dealing with each other, and when it comes to dealing with each other as a nation, when it comes to building this nation up, well, sometimes we're going to have to swallow our pride. Sometimes we're going to have to be the bigger person. Sometimes we're going to have to lead by example. And sometimes you're going to have to show forgiveness. Sometimes you're going to have to show mercy. Okay? You got that up?
You said
2 Corinthians 30:9. Chronicles, Salakia. 2 Chronicles 30:9. Salakia. Again, it's very easy, to want to, to want to show anger towards someone. I mean, that's easy. It's very easy, to walk around and want to, have a chip on your shoulder. That's the easy part. Well, listen, the kingdom of heaven, is not a light thing to gain.
Right.
We have to work for the kingdom of heaven. And working for the kingdom of heaven is working for one another,
Right.
Showing love to one another, willing to sacrifice for one another, willing to lay down our life for a brother.
Right.
The Most High is not just going to hand you the kingdom. He's not going to say, oh, you served your punishment. Okay, so go ahead, the kingdom of heaven is yours. And you go into the kingdom of heaven wicked. You go into the kingdom of heaven, hating your brother. You go into the kingdom of heaven willing to kill, steal, and destroy your brothers. What kind of sense does that make? We got to let all of that go. We have to change as a person. We have to have a renewing of the mind. We have to put away our old self, because our old self would have carried that anger around. Our old self wouldn't have forgiven our brother. Let's see. Go ahead and read that for me.
This is the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 30, verse 9. For if ye turn again unto the Lord, your brethren and your children shall find compassion before them that lead them captive.
Listen, the Lord says, if we turn back to him, that we're going to get that compassion. The Lord is going to have mercy on us. The Lord is going to forgive our transgression if we turn back to him. And the only way you can turn back to him is loving your brother. That's the only way. You can't say that you love the Lord and then have hatred in your heart for your brother. That's not how this thing works. And again, we have to continuously drop that out. Give me Matthew 18 and 21. And yeah, you know, we might go through a thing where, you know, our brothers transgress and offend us more than once. You know, and this ain't the world, you know, the old 3 strikes you out rule. Right. Okay, your brother, you know, did something to you 3 times and you're like, oh, hell, the hell with him. I ain't never dealing with him again. Is that how you're supposed to deal with your brother? Is that how you're supposed to deal with your brother according to the scriptures? This is a perpetual forgiveness. Right. And again, just because you forgive don't mean that you have to forget. You know, no one is saying, you know, be a fool. Okay? No one is saying that you have to be a fool in dealing with your brothers. Okay? You learn that brother, you know that brother, you forgive that brother, and hey, either you might say, hey, you know what I'm saying, like I can still deal with this brother, or you might say, hey, you know, I forgive this brother, you know what I'm saying, I don't have nothing against the brother, you know, but you might have to separate yourself. You know what I'm saying? You know, Lord willing, you know, can reconcile, come back together, you know what I'm saying, and work everything out. But again, nobody's expecting, you know, you to, you know, continue to forgive Salakia. No one is telling you to continue to, like the example I gave earlier. If you got a brother, you know, that's a habitual, you know, thief. You know what I'm saying? You know, you forgive that brother, you know, but just don't put that brother, you know, in a position, you know, to be able to steal from you no more. You know, like I said, that brother might not be able to come to your, you know, your house. You know what I'm saying? Read that for me out.
Go up. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 21. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how else shall my brother sin against me?
See, look, man, this was going on thousands of years ago where brothers were sinning against each other. Brothers were committing trespasses against each other. This has been going on. Wow. So Peter, he went to Christ and he said, Lord, how many times shall I forgive a brother if he sin against me? Read.
And I forgive him.
How many times can he sin against me and I have to forgive him? Read.
Till 7 times.
Till 7 times? Read.
Verse 22. Yahweh shall say unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times.
Yahweh shall, what, you know, who the world ignorantly calls, you know, Jesus. Yahweh Shai is his name in the Hebrew. He said, no, I ain't saying 7 times. Read.
But until 70 times 7.
But until how many times?
70 times 7.
But until 70 times 7. So was Christ saying that we have to forgive our brother? Make sure my math is correct. 4,900 times. Is that what Christ saying? Or was Christ saying, well, if your brother sins against you, you have to forgive him 4,900 times. And then after 4,900 times, you don't have to forgive him no more. Is that what Christ was saying? No, that is not what Christ was saying.
Right.
Christ was giving you a parable. Christ was using the 70 times 7 as a metaphor. Right. What Christ is saying is you forgive him every time that he trespasses you.
Right.
Anytime a brother trespasses you, anytime a brother commits a sin against you, anytime a brother offends you, Forgive that brother. Okay? Forgive that brother. Forgiveness, compassion, mercy. This is how we're going to bring about the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
Make no mistake about it. America, modern day Babylon, modern day Egypt, modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, it's going to come to an end. Okay? This kingdom is going to come to an end. And I don't care if you believe it or not. What? Shall this be of no effect because some didn't believe?
Right.
Shall the scriptures be of no effect because some didn't believe in the scriptures? The Bible say, God forbid.
Right.
The Bible says, hell la. Hell no. The things in this Bible in the past have came to pass, are happening right now, and will come to pass. Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, it's time for us to gather together, and it's time for us to work to get the kingdom of heaven. Because the kingdom of heaven is not going to come without work.
Right.
It's not going to come without sacrifice. It's not going to come without love. It's not going to come without mercy. And we're the ones that's going to make it happen. We're going to separate ourselves from the so-called oppressor. We're going to turn away from his wicked ways, and we're going to help each other. We're going to be there for each other. We're going to get each other through. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do that by loving one another. We're going to do that by being humble, by humbling ourselves.
Right.
We're going to do that by showing compassion for one another, giving a damn about your brother. That's how we're going to accomplish this, by giving a damn about one another.
Right.
By willing to sacrifice what we got going on. And that's how we're going to get this kingdom of heaven. Mercy and forgiveness is what the nation of Israel has to have for each other. And we have to have it now.
Right.
Now is the time to have it. I think that's all I got. You want to say anything,
No.
All right. Well, if there's no questions in the chat, what we're going to do is we're going to pass the class over to Priest and Officer Abun Zion for the security announcements.
This is the ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK started out 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Our commander, Junior Hunter. Rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Ties, which is a commandment. Numbers chapter 18, verse 21. Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Means 10 in Hebrew. Ma'asharah, 10 of every penny of any increase the Lord give you. Give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not military. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocation. We have the memorial blowing of trumpets. First day of the 7th month, Sunday the 25th of September 2022. You can find that in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 24 to 25. Remind occupant and occupant to check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black, boots, shirts, pants, headband, and scarf. That includes the ISUPK security officer.
All jokes aside, you know how niggas be like, I'm this and that for life. This and that for life. I'm always for you. I'ma show them it's a different. I'ma always say this once, you better listen. But what's is where it starts.
So you know that's where it finished. We got one main objective, nigga. Let's complete the mission. We explaining what the who? Leave them bitches in they feelings. Snub on me. Only time I put my nose inside your business. I don't want my gun to show, so I wear my shirt bigger. This is our world. Cause if this was your world, I'd be the villain. Break his whole block down. All I gotta do is finish stuffing Mac shell drums. Turn your crib to Sunday dinner. You don't live here, you visit. This my shit. It's a difference. I don't do lean. Lobos in my cup is what I'm sipping. I don't do dreams. I just say a prayer, go and get it. And it all work out. You know this ain't the play.
I had to put that shit together quick, nigga.
Niggas know that I'm the one. This shit can go 100 yards. You would think I kicked the punt. You would think I had a flare gun on go, you niggas run. They like he an Israelite, all he rap about is guns. Bitch, I'm an Israelite that own a lot of guns. What that nigga said, who? Tell him watch the grind. Yeah, you must be crazy if you ever think of stopping mine. Knock all the chains out you niggas, make them drop a dime. This tourist hold 12, it is not a zodiac sign. Piss me off, get me in my bag, make me drop a bomb. Drop a nuke, make the world freeze, I can stop the time. Watch what you do, cause once you do it, you can't press rewind. On purpose, I do the opposite, so nigga cross the line. This is different, I ain't looking for trouble, but on point, case you think I rap. Turn him to a vegetable, lead this nigga cabbage patch. No new niggas with me, if you see him, then they got my back. Got it out the mud, big stepping, you can see the tracks, follow me. I could teach you something, have her see, relax. If you going on anything, just make sure it's fact. It's a we are not the same, help them notice that. Pay attention, watch how we move, we can know we can't hang around all the niggas and we move as one. This ain't Fortnite, get into it, ain't no 1v1. The smoke bring to you, you can't take it in with your lung. Life about warfare, we just make it look fun. She asked what kind of oil I got on, I told her give them some. When West the only real niggas left, you better get you one. Chicken shop, giving out wings if I pull a drum. It's a difference, you better watch your words before you eat your tongue. Scrape the whole plate, not a trace nor leave a crumb. Ice falling off the watch and chain like it's freezer burn. Daring somebody to say my name, I will eat to him. Loyalty means everything, so I don't eat with them.
What do I want? I want to know myself, and BetterHelp makes that possible.